Yes, welcome back to the channel. Massive weekend of Premier League fixtures. Our teams are going head-to-head, as well as Manchester City travelling to Anfield in two big 3 o'clock games on Saturday. Big weekend, Terry. Red against white. I like the fact you've put a little red theme behind you today as well. How's things, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. Look, United 3 wins in 3. Very confident going into this weekend's games. We saw one. I actually loved the semi-final game between Arsenal and Chelsea this week. Not just the I like the chess game. I actually don't even mind Liam Rossini's approach. Hated the commentary on it. I thought the commentary was some of the worst stuff I've ever heard, but I think it's a good thing for football it happened because people are starting to wake up to the fact that the mainstream media just runs agendas and rage baits everybody rather than speaking honestly. And yeah, it's been some interesting debates, some great games of football. And this is maybe one of the most pivotal weekends of the Premier League so far. So much excitement. You've got the sort of Man United Spurs game, which has big implications in the relegation zone for you lot and Champions League qualification for us. You've got Liverpool versus City. And I'm torn on that because I kind of want City to win to help Man United's pursuit of Champions League football. But I also don't want City, in case of the slip up with Arsenal, closing that gap on Arsenal because I don't want City winning the league. But my club's more important. So listen, I love it. Great mood. Loads of great football to talk about today. Can't wait to get into it, mate.
Mate, I'm very, very nervous for this weekend. I'll tell you that. But make sure you go down and drop a like on the video if you haven't already. Get over to Terry's channels and subscribe, as well as subscribe to this one. Do you know we're going to start with, obviously, the big game tomorrow, Manchester United versus Spurs. Now, we've got a very good record in the last 3 or 4 years against you. I think we won all 4 games last year in the FA Cup, home and away in the league, and the Europa League final. The year before that, I think we won our home game. Completely different Spurs team now. Under Ange Postecoglou, there was this inevitability to attack and score lots of goals. We've kind of completely 180'd our approach. We're now more of a pragmatic side who were harder to break down. We've had a decent-ish run in the Champions League. We made the top 4. Do you feel, obviously you're going to be confident, looking at how Man United have played under Michael Carrick. This new manager bounce is doing really well for you, beating City and Arsenal and showing character has come back from a 2-2 draw against Fulham and win the game. Is there any part of you that thinks they could cause us problems, they could win this game, or is it this is certainty that you will win?
We have 0 wins in our last 8 meetings against Tottenham, sorry.
Is that what it is, 0 and 8?
0 wins in 8 games. You've won, I think, 5 of them as well, but all 4 last season. Can you pose as a threat? Yes, because it's the Premier League. There's no easy games, and we need to be at our best. We were better than Fulham, for me, for large parts last week. Conceded a goal from a penalty that I dispute and will continue to dispute because I saw Mickey van der Ven break Isak's leg with the exact same challenge, and there was no recourse. In fact, everybody defended Van der Ven and said, what's he meant to do? Not try and block the ball? Maguire makes the same type of tackle, doesn't actually make contact with Raul Jimenez. Raul Jimenez stands on Maguire's leg. People haven't actually watched it back. His shooting foot comes down on top of Maguire's leg, and yet a penalty was given after weeks of football fans, journalists, the PGMOL going, as long as the shot gets off and you're not impeded, it ain't a foul. But after that moment, we had a wobble, went back to 2-2. Great Šeško goal set up by Bruno to win it. Marvellous. But there's still vulnerabilities in this Man United team, and I'm on cloud 9 with how well we're playing. I'm enjoying every moment because that's an important, fundamental part of football, and you should enjoy it whilst you're winning. Because otherwise, I mean, it's a fucking depressing thing to do, turning up, going, I'm never going to be happy until we're back at the top. That could take 3 years, and I'll be unhappy every day. Wankers. People like that, wankers. Like, they need to get a life. They need to stop watching football and actually do something that makes them happy. Football makes me happy by and large. So I participate in it as a fan. But of course you can hurt us. But you're not going to. You might score a goal, but you're not. We are beating you tomorrow. I have never felt so confident going into a Man United Tottenham game in the past 13 years. Partly it's based on whether it's the tactics are better or whether it's new manager bounce or more likely to be somewhere in the middle of those two things, it's not just about you having a bad season and being in the relegation zone. And yes, you had a good second half against Man City, but actually it's not even about me looking at your team and going 99% of your games you look disinterested, because you will be interested against United. You will come at us at times as well. I'm basing this purely on probability. The fact that we're 0 wins in 8, when all those other elements are side dishes and they play a role in my prediction, I just don't think we're going to go 9 games against Tottenham, this Tottenham, with the level you're currently at, without winning. So I look at the probability of going 0-9 against you versus, well, it's not 0-9, you haven't won all those games, but you get from our perspective, drawing or losing to Spurs is exactly the same thing. It isn't good enough. We're playing excellent football. Our attack is purring right now. The way we're attacking, 3 goals versus Fulham, 3 goals away at Arsenal. Like, we've got to factor that in here. The best defensive team in the world, we put 3 goals past. Should have scored 6 or 7 against Manchester City. We really should have done. So I think that we're going to be very good in the attack. I know you've got Van der Ven and Romero back. I've read today they should be back. Just a tweet I saw.
I know Romero's certain, but Van der Ven, they're still saying is likely to play, but he probably won't play full 90.
Yeah, but you've still got a lot of players out injured as well, which does help us. I'm never someone that pretends that injuries aren't a factor. I think we win. I think we win 3-1, and I think we put a dent in your relegation battle.
That's our current players out. So Kudus, Richarlison, Bentancur, Bergvall, Maddison, Kulusevski, Porro, Davis. I believe Spence is out as well. So,
yes, and that's my point. As like, I factor all these things in. The probability is actually still my biggest thing, which a lot of people will go, that's a bit weird that the probability is above the injuries, but it's a factor of everything. And the players on there that have hurt us in recent years, Richarlison gets goals against us for some reason. Bergvall worries the living daylights out of me. Porro and Spence as your fullbacks worry. Do you get around? So yeah, we've got players out too, but we have the majority of our team fit. It's at Old Trafford. We're playing really well. You're in a relegation battle. The 0 wins in 8. I just can't see us going one more game when you factor it all in. I think we win 3-1, and it's nice. It's the early game, and I think we're going to win it. And then it puts all the pressure on Chelsea, all the pressure on Liverpool to win, because we will pull at that point 3-2. I want to check the league again now. I think we'll put about 5 points ahead of Liverpool when I'm being positive, when we win that game. So we will go 5 points ahead of Liverpool, and we'll go 4 points ahead of Chelsea at that point, which then puts all the pressure on their games. Obviously, us and Chelsea are on quite a good run at this particular moment. And what it also does when we win this game, it's going to put us just 3 points behind second place City. And it will put us which is crazy to think, it's going to put us just 2 points behind an Aston Villa team who have been a little bit struggling of late. And I've been saying it for weeks. We've got to aim for second place, because first place is too far away. But if we aim for second place and just fall short, we're probably going to come 3rd or 4th. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this game. It's the early kickoff. Get the win, score some goals, and then sit back, feet up, and enjoy the rest of the weekend's football.
Do you know what as well? Just to add some more stats into it, we've only won 2 of our last 14 Premier League games, and we haven't won a Premier League game this calendar year out of the 7 we've played, or 6 we've played. We've got a lot of draws in there. I think we've got the 3rd most amount of draws in the league. But actually got the same amount of draws as you, but obviously you've got a lot more wins. And if you do win against us, I think you'll go 15 points clear.
The danger element, though, is that you are the 4th best team in terms of away form this year.
Yeah, that's true.
So you are there. Home form's an interesting one because we currently sit 6th. But if we win this game, we move up to being 3rd best in the league. But yeah, so your away form has been good, to be fair. I'm not too sure on how that's looked recently. I get this feeling that quite a lot of those wins might have come earlier on in the season. So there is an element of overall season versus the form that you are currently in, because as you say, you've not been great of late. And look, I'm not disrespecting Tottenham. I'm not saying you're a crap team. Like I'm not playing those games. But in terms of, as you say, when you look at the form, you know wins in your last 6. So you get where I'm coming from? I mean, so if we look at away form in the last 6, you're 14th. Do you get where I'm coming from? Where if you look at home form in the last 6, United are coming in. Again, we're coming in 5th place, but we're one win away from being the best team on home form in the last 6. Does that make sense? So you look at form, your injury problems, our home record, and I do think maybe because of the final last year, I think because of all of these things, there's going to be a really good atmosphere there tomorrow. It's obviously on a more somber note and less bravado around this. It's the Munich anniversary today of the Busby Babes passing in the tragedy in the air crash, and that always brings I've been to many a game that come around the anniversary, and there's a very somber and sad feeling in terms of the build-up. But once the silence, the 2-minute silence is over. It's not. They've done 2 minutes before. Sometimes it's 1 minute. But when the moment of silence is over, the crowd gets up even more. And I think when you factor in all these things, plus all your problems, I'm really, really confident. 3-1. I'm going to give you a goal, but 3-1 United. And then we let you guys crack on with your relegation battle.
I don't think I've ever seen you this confident. Do you know what as well? If we lose, which is very likely at this point, it just becomes it's damage limitation from my perspective from Spurs. Drawing against Burnley, losing to a Nottingham Forest team who were diabolical in recent form, giving Fulham and Bournemouth their first away wins of the season, couldn't beat Wolves, losing to West Ham. At what point do we turn around and go, right, Thomas Frank has to go because this is unacceptable? But the club are going to give him until the end of the season. At this point, is there an interim out there who would want to come and take over Spurs? And you look at where you were last year, you finished 15th, we finished 17th. Look what you did in the summer window where people were saying, Man United haven't done that great business. Signing 2 of the top 10 Premier League goal scorers in Cunha and Mbumo, who are now, as you said, purring. Benjamin Sesko, who has been heavily criticised, he's coming off the bench and getting goals. Bruno, I don't care what anyone says right now. I'd argue he's the best attacker in Europe at this moment in time on current form. He's been unbelievable. I think he's got 12 assists, which if he gets another 9, he would break the record, and he could quite easily get a few against us because of how poor we are defensively. So everything seems to go right for you and everything seems to go wrong for us. That being said, this would be a Spursy thing to go and beat Man United. I don't think it will happen. I think you'll win. I think you could score 3 or 4 goals, but it would definitely be a Spursy thing to get our first win against an on-form Man United, and then matey boy can't get his haircut. I want to move on to the 3 o'clock games tomorrow. Arsenal playing Sunderland, an opportunity to go 9 points clear. And you said at the beginning of this video that this is a very important weekend. I would actually go as far to say that if City don't beat Liverpool, this weekend doesn't decide the title, but this weekend, does it decide? I mean, and I don't see them clawing back 9 points, I'll be honest with you. I don't see them at this moment in time winning the league. But when you're 9 points behind, I personally think Pep will give up and he'll focus on the Champions League. Similar to what Arteta did last year when Slot was running away with it. No one can tell me that they were still in a title race in February because they checked out. I think if they beat Sunderland, and I do think Liverpool will beat City, they've got 1 win. I think Pep's got 1 win in 9 games, which is a 4-3 win. And I don't think he's got any wins in his last 6. I think Liverpool will win, and I think Arsenal will win. When he gets to a 9-point lead, it's as good as done for me because I just don't see them right now the way they're playing. Like, yes, they beat a Newcastle side, but it's a Newcastle side home and away that have been very, very poor. They couldn't beat us when we only had 14 fit players in our 25-man squad. They drew to Sunderland, Brighton, Chelsea. They lost to Bodo. They were comfortably beaten by a Manchester United side who were, before Michael Carrick, in disarray. So I think it's as good as done if it goes to a 9-point lead. Of course, mathematically it's not, but it's got to be mentally playing on Pep's mind.
I think you're in and around on the money here because you're right. If there's a 9-point gap with 13 left to play, you're playing for 39 points. But you've got to look at probability. And also, by the way, the glasses are to stop the glare off the screens. I keep getting mad headaches. I'm not just wearing glasses indoors. I'm not one of those guys, but I was sitting here, my eyes started burning. Something about I had my eyes tested, right? I'm going to let your viewers know what's going on here. I had all the scans. They look around the back of my head. They're like, everything's perfect. Your vision is fine. I'm like, then why are my eyes hurting? And he just said, strain.
They're called blue light glasses.
So yeah, these are like cheap ones I've got off Amazon. I've bought some proper ones from the opticians that he's like, you don't really need glasses, but maybe when you're streaming, maybe when you're like editing, he went, just wear them to stop the strain. So, but yeah, I've had headaches for about 2 weeks because of it. But I'm glad it's the eyes, because since I put these on, even like now, I just put them on, and it's almost like, oh, my head just goes, oh, that's nice. Does that make sense? Anyway, right. Just wanted to let you know why I put sunglasses on in the middle of our conversation. Not, but you are right. It's not about the maths. It's about the probability. It isn't about the maths. It's about the mental strength to go again. And I feel that if Arsenal go 9 points clear and Liverpool beat Man City, I just don't think City, when you look at the way Rodri's crying about conspiracy theories, how the manager is trying to get rules changed for a cup final to help his team. If you look at where their fans are behaving, they're doing up mad, like sort of povo stuff. Don't have a go at us for not filling our stadium. It's not our fault. We're povos. My brother, we're all povos. We've just got more povos than you, so we can fill the holes in our povo stadiums. You just can't because you're a smaller povo fan base. No one's povo shaming. We're all povos here. Do you know what I mean? But they're just losing their minds, and there's something in that. Do you get where I'm coming from? There's like they're losing their cool, and it's reminding me of the Kevin Keegan, I'd love it if we beat them moment. It's reminding me of the Rafa Benitez facts rant that happened. And there is this losing of their call. And I just think this would be, I'm not saying it's over, because I still feel that's maybe a little too far. But if Arsenal win this weekend, and I think they will, I think you're going to see one of the stinkiest, lowest blocks, lack of ambition attacks you've ever seen from any team this year from Sunderland. They are just it's going to be survival mode from the first to the last whistle. Maybe the last 10 minutes they'll have an attack, because we saw Chelsea do it this week. We saw Chelsea fans all week go, we're not going to be scared. We're going to attack. You know, they're not even that good. And what happens? They just sat back for 88 minutes of the game, because teams know what happens when you go to the Emirates and you open up. Not everybody's Man United. Do you know what I'm saying? Not everybody can do what Carrick Ball did that day. But that's also because we actually got a really good attack, and it just wasn't being. Yeah, I'm just having a bit of fun with that. But on a real level, Man United got one of the best attacking units in Europe. It just wasn't being utilised properly in it with, and other teams don't have that. So it's harder to attack, because how potent are your attacks going to be when your attack isn't of that standard? So it's going to be a stinky game, but I think Arsenal are going to win. I think they're going to go 9 points clear. And if City lose to Liverpool, I agree with you. I think their resolve will go, and come the end of this run of games until the international break, so I think that's another 5-6 games, that the gap will grow to about 15 points.
Well, I was just, while you were saying that, I was just had Twitter open in the background, and this popped up, and I see below you've commented on it.
Oh,
Jamie Carragher does his little paragraph every week in the Telegraph, and he's saying, I agree. I think he's the best coach of all time. I don't think he's the best manager. I don't think he can do what Alex Ferguson does. And I think part of the game where he's managed, you didn't really have huge directors of football when Ferguson was about. And then he's gone on to say, let's enjoy having the best coach of all time in our league while we can. More and more rumours coming out that he will be leaving at the end of the season. And then our very own Terry Flewers has come back with, he hasn't won the league as clear underdog. Would you argue that if he wins the league this year, he will be he's the underdog?
So not a clear underdog, no. They've spent £600 million in the last 12 months, and they've added that to a squad worth over £1 billion. One of the greatest strikers in the history of football, with some of the best, with one of the best goalkeepers, with some fantastic defenders. So no, that's not. When I say clear, it's really I really liked writing this tweet, because you get the consensus of the greatest ever was always Sir Alex. So I understand why the Carraghers of this world want to crown Pep, because they know if they try and crown any other manager, it'll be shot down, because the consensus already agreed. But if you actually read my tweet, there's many of the things I mentioned that have nothing to do with Sir Alex Ferguson, because Sir Alex Ferguson didn't win. He didn't win back-to-back Champions Leagues. Okay, he did. He may have, when we won the league in 92, 93, we were a clear underdog because we were absolutely written off from being able to do it, as an example. But only once. Once we had won it once, there was never another time where we were a clear underdog. We were always in and around the favoured teams. But Pep, it's the comment he's made that there isn't much that Pep hasn't achieved in football. And I don't like those kind of comments because I think it just... But it's that, but it disrespects, like Carragher's a Liverpool legend, but he's disrespecting his own football club because what Shankly built gave the platform for what the likes of Paisley delivered. So there's this element of you can't remove context and just look purely at what was won. So you have to look at everything overall, like Brian Clough taking a team from what is now the Championship, but back then Division 2, getting them promoted, winning, and then doing back-to-back Champions Leagues. Imagine Sunderland got up, won the league, and then won back-to-back Champions Leagues. And I use Sunderland because Sunderland and Forest, I don't think are too dissimilar in historical size. The thing for me about he's achieved almost everything he hasn't. He hasn't rebuilt 2 or 3 great teams. Oh, Terry's rebuilt teams twice, but the majority of the core stayed together. I'm talking about he hasn't built one great team, seen the core leave. And I mean the core is in Edison, Ruben Diaz, Stones, the midfield, the striker, the core of that team. Once it's all gone, can he rebuild another core that lived? Chelsea are the greatest example of this. That period under Roman, right through to when they won the Champions League, there was a consistent there of Cech and Terry and Lampard and Drogba. So, it was a core that was in the team and bits came in and out. But he hasn't rebuilt a great team yet. He could do it for a second or a third time. He hasn't won the Premier League twice in England, which a number of managers have done. He hasn't gone back-to-back with Champions League wins, which Cloughy did as an example. Hasn't won 3 Champions Leagues in England. Hasn't shown that with a team in transition, which he is right now, because they're not quite at their best, that can go on to win a league or even a trophy as of yet, okay? Hasn't rebuilt a fallen giant, so hasn't gone to a club that used to be one of the best in England and turned them into the best against all odds. He hasn't been outspent by a billionaire that has changed the landscape of English football and found a way to beat it, which Fergie did 3 times, by the way. He hasn't seen his team or club suffer a devastating tragedy and rebuilt through them. And this isn't about, it is about today, the Munich air disaster, but also what happened with Liverpool, as an example with Hillsborough. It didn't impact the team directly, as in it wasn't none of them that were hurt, but managing the club through that process and coming out the other side of it. These are things that I feel, and then obviously for me, Pep's amazing, and I will never play down his achievements. I will never slag off what he's done. I will never call him a checkbook manager. But I think a statement going, there's not much that he hasn't achieved, I think it is disrespectful to Paisley. It's disrespectful to Shankly, Wenger, Fergie, Jose, Cloughy, Busby, so on and so forth. Bill Nicholson. These, I don't like it. I think what these newspapers and what these pros should be doing is educating the young fans. Me, as someone who's 40 years of age listening to this, Pep's amazing, and he sits on the table with all of them, and he may very well be better than all of them as a coach. But it's this blasé. It's just him.
That's the key word there, though. Coach. He's not a better. I don't think he's a better manager. This might be a bit of a big shout than someone like a Jose, because Guardiola has always worked under a director of football who has the vision for the football club. Barcelona have the same idea every single year that they are going to play tiki-taka, high pressing, high tempo football. Alex Ferguson went and beat Real Madrid in a European Cup final with fucking Aberdeen.
Mate, he did. If we just narrow this down, to English football for a moment, because that's the claim, and I get the Aberdeen thing, and I get the Barcelona thing. I think Pep's amazing, and he actually sits for me inside the top 2. But it isn't about where I rank him; it's the blasé approach. There's almost nothing he hasn't achieved. Well, I'll tell you something he hasn't achieved, which many of those great managers I've mentioned in English football have, which is when your team has fallen off a little bit because the squad's aged out and you're in a transitional period, as we like to refer to it. But it's sticking at the club working through that adversity whilst you're rebuilding a team that goes on to win again. That for me is an achievement, which it's so important, a lesson from sport to be from that, because there's almost this element of managing your own ego within that you might come second, third, fourth, or fifth for a year or two as you're rebuilding. And I look at Pep and I get, he's knackered now, Terry, he's got to move on, he's got to do this. Yeah, I know. I understand why he's tired. But if they were top of the league, if those transfers in the last 2 or 3 years of Calvin Phillips's and Doku's and Savinho's had worked and they were top of the league by 8-9 points right now, would he be as tired? Would he be as stressed? My personal opinion is no. It's tiring keeping your team at the top, and then it's exhausting when you fall off a little bit and you're trying to get it back up there. So it's just that blasé comment of that there is not much he hasn't achieved. There are multiple things, huge things that he hasn't achieved in the English game. Yes, when you just look at the volume of trophies, but you're removing the context. And I feel that removing that context is so disrespectful to all the greats that sit on that table with him, and I don't like it. The same as I talk about this when it comes to Henry being considered the Premier League GOAT. When people, I'm not against him being the GOAT. It's just when people go, who do you think the GOAT is? Henry? Anybody? Before you even finish talking, no one else. It has to be him. What do you mean it just has to be? I don't like the idea that anything is just said and it's set in stone and there's no conversation about it.
It's objective, isn't it? So it's all what you determine as, like, my criteria is as much, and I'm probably going to get a lot of stick from a lot of Arsenal fans here, but I think to be considered the Premier League GOAT, you have had to have won the biggest trophy in European football at your club. So, for instance, the Champions League. Now, I understand he won that at Barcelona, and when he was at Arsenal, it's very, very difficult to win that. For someone like a Cristiano Ronaldo, for instance, who was unbelievable, won it all. You know, someone like a Wayne Rooney. I know Cantona didn't win the Champions League, but again, it's what you determine. You could turn around to me and say Dennis Bergkamp's, best player the Premier League's ever seen. But then it's down to your personal opinion.
But I agree with you that there has to be, and this is why people don't want to have the conversations, though, because conversations lead to challenge. And it often can lead to somebody's reality being broken. And you see this in politics all the time. Someone will make a claim and you'll say, can we talk about it? Why? Someone will say, this is, I'm not going to use any of the words. I don't really want to start it on your channel, but this is X. You go, can you explain to me why it's that? If you have to ask, you're one of them. No, I'm just trying to understand. But as soon as people want to shut down a conversation, often that tells me their argument is very fragile, because I agree with you. I judge players on 4 pillars and always have done, which is their ability, their output and consistency, their longevity, so how long they remained at the top, and then I look at what they were influential in winning. So not, because what I don't like is, but Anderson's got loads of Premier League titles. You're saying he's better than Gerrard? No, because he wasn't overly influential in us winning those. So I'm very careful with that. One argument I don't like is who's better at their peak. I don't care, because someone could have an amazing, because you could argue that Aaron Ramsey's peak season where he scored all them goals was better than Vieira's peak season. Doesn't make him a better football player. You could, the problem with the peak argument is you could find examples where a player had an 18-month period where they were better than most other midfielders, but everything before and after it was just distinctly average. So I think it's a really poor metric. But I look at those 4 things, but nobody likes to put things into certain boxes, because when you start putting things into a box and going, okay, well, we'll assess it based on these 3, 4, 5 criterias, it undermines people who people want to be seen as the best, if that makes sense. And I feel that trophies is one of the most important measurements, but it has to be a trophy you were influential in winning, which is why, and then you get, like, Liverpool fans do this. They go, well, you can't discount the Champions League because Gerrard won that. And I know, I agree with you guys. You can't discount it. But then you'll get someone whose player didn't win the Champions League and go, no, I'm talking just in the Prem. I said, hang on a minute, though.
Because Gerrard didn't win that.
Well, yeah, because for me, it's not about trying to isolate any player. You don't play the Premier League and Champions League separately. They're played at the same time. So Gerrard delivering in the Champions League, he was still playing in the Premier League, not just for Liverpool, but at the same time as playing in the Champions League. If Champions League tournaments, you remember the year of lockdown where the Champions League and Europa League were they were played after the season. It was like a Euros or a World Cup, but for the Champions League. If that's how it was always done, if you had your domestic season from the beginning of August until March and the season ended, you had 2 weeks off, and then you had an isolated Champions League tournament, then I would assess it differently because they're not being played at the same time. But you have to. So if I see a player like a Ryan Giggs, who consistently, he had a couple of years in the early 2000s where he had hamstring problems and he wasn't very good. But outside of those 2 years, consistently delivering, molded his position. So went from being a marauding, pacey, skillful left winger to a holding midfield player. Again, you want to speak about technical ability. Show me someone that has that level of technical ability, that level of football knowledge, that level of reading of the game to change their positions that dramatically. Find me the volume of examples of players that have changed that dramatically. The list is going to be able to fit on probably one hand in sort of the Premier League era, but also was influential in winning so many trophies, has the longevity, also has the peak element. And a lot of youngsters don't know this about Giggsy. His first 10 years, he was voted for universally as the best left winger in the Champions League in the first 10 years of his career. But a lot of the kids that are like 25 to 30 don't even remember those years. They just remember the old man, Ryan Giggs. So I just look at these things, and I think Thierry Henry is one of the greatest players to ever play football in England. He's rightfully in the GOAT conversations. I'm just perplexed at any of these debates, which are, it's this person, that's it. It can never change no matter what you say, no matter what anybody else does. That's it. It's set in stone. I think that's a ridiculous way to talk about football, personally.
And do you know what as well? Like, going back to Ryan Giggs, people remember him as the 40-year-old central midfielder. I think I've heard you say this before, and I agree bang on that Ryan Giggs, certainly in my lifetime, there's very few that are world-class footballers in multiple positions. And Ryan Giggs could pretty much play anywhere in midfield. And the closest thing we've probably got today is someone maybe like a Reece James, where he can be a world-class midfielder and a right-back. But when you're so unique like that, it's just... Speaking of Reece James, I just want to finish up on Chelsea's fixtures. Now, big game tomorrow against Wolves, and then they play Leeds, Hull, and Burnley. Now, I'm not a Chelsea fan, but anything other than 4 wins there should be a disgrace, to be honest with you. Burnley are terrible, Leeds are bad away from home, and Wolves are great, poor at home. Do you think Chelsea are a bigger threat to top 4 or top 5 than Liverpool from a United perspective?
They should be, because Liverpool in disarray right now. They had a good result against Newcastle. Having said that, I think they're going to win this weekend, Liverpool, if I'm being honest with you. So maybe they're on a turnaround, but they've been really poor. But these Premier League games, I didn't realize they were playing Arsenal again so soon. These Premier League games, Wolves, Leeds, and Burnley should all be wins, especially this weekend. The problem they've got is they had a really good start, and after that comeback against West Ham, there was a lot of enthusiasm. I think this week has hurt a lot of Chelsea fans again, because I feel that they would have, just going by what they've said to me, I think they would have preferred to have gone out 3-0, but fighting and pushing and trying to score goals. I think the majority would have preferred that, and it didn't happen. So they've got to respond this week. I think they'll beat Wolves. I think they beat Wolves. But my message to Chelsea is be careful. Be careful, because they've had a few results recently, Wolves, that nobody expected, some draws, some wins that they've had. Even at the Etihad, they got in behind the defense of City three or four times in that second half, and they can cause you problems. So they've just got to be careful. Going out the way they did, I thought was really poor and pathetic for a club of their standard. I think the wrong tactics completely. A club of their level, a club with their fan base, a club with their history needs to be doing better than that. And they've got to win these games, because then you start looking at the games that come after. Away at Arsenal, away at Villa, they play Newcastle. Newcastle ain't that great at the moment, to be fair. So that's a game they should be winning, but it becomes harder. And they had they had the scare against West Ham. But for instance, if you shockingly lose to Wolves, grab a draw against Leeds and then beat Burnley and then go into these hard games, they become must win, because, well, you don't know what other teams are doing at that time. But all that being said, I think the firepower of Chelsea will have too much. I think Chelsea are going to end up prioritising the Premier League this season for the rest of the season. I think even more than the Champions League, to be honest. I think they're going to be at their absolute strongest for every Premier League game, because I think re-qualifying for the Champions League is actually more important to their building of their squad. They win the Champions League, they're back in it, and they get the prize money and they get the trophy. But if I'm being honest, and if you're being honest, I don't think any they can win the Champions League, but it's it's quite unlikely. So I think qualifying back for the Champions League is probably the biggest priority for them now.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more chance Liverpool winning the Champions League than Chelsea personally, just because they've got more heritage in that competition and they've got players that have been there, seen it and done it. But look, we are going to wrap up. Other than your match reactions, have you got any more content coming out over the weekend?
I will be on the United stand. What time is this going out?
Probably
nowish.
1:30, 2 o'clock.
Okay, cool. So yeah, the Football Terrace live at 3:30 today UK time, and then there'll be I'll be on the United stand tonight at 8 p.m. Looking ahead to the weekend. But then the weekend will just predominantly be match reactions, probably a little bit of a fan channel review at some point as well. Reacting is one of my favorite shows to do the week, is reacting to the fan cams and the rants, and that's why I'm annoyed you don't do watch-alongs anymore, because yours were fucking brilliant.
Do you know what? The amount of people have been messaging me saying you got to bring it back. But it's just, I mean, I might do one tomorrow to see how we get on. But it is just, being a Spurs fan at the moment, it is just, it is what it is. But look, we are going to wrap up. Make sure you get over to both channels and subscribe. Drop a like on the way out, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you all for watching. We are out.